Hello. Um, so today I will be talking about economic impact of COVID-19 on India and how it can be analyzed using both uh, macro and microeconomic concept, and how by integrating these perspectives we can get a deeper understanding of pandemic uh, impact on India through inflation, GDP, or currency. So just starting with inflation, talking about macro level, we observe demand pull inflation because initially pandemic caused a reduction in aggregate demand as lockdown restricted economic activities, reducing the consumption, investment. However, as economy reopened and stimulus package was introduced, aggregate demand rebounded. This caused demand pull inflation, especially in sectors like food, health, and essential goods. Second was cost push inflation. So on the supply side, cost push inflation occurred due to disruptions in supply chain. Key inputs such as labor, transportation face shortages, leading to higher production costs that were passed on to customers. The sharp increase in global oil prices added to this inflationary pressure, contributing to higher fuel transportation costs across the industries. Talking at micro level, so price elasticity of demand, like uh, certain essential goods such as food, medical supplies, or increase in price because of their inelastic demand. Consumer had less choice but to pay higher prices, which supported the inflation in these categories. We also observed substitution effect due to like as the prices of certain goods rose, we saw a lot of substitutes coming in, and then how the economy is placed there. So that is one of the good example we see. But overall, these all things contributed to the inflation during this time. Second, I would like to cover GDP, and for GDP also talking at macro level, talking about aggregate supply and demand. Initially, um, economic contraction in 2020 resulted from a severe fall in both aggregate demand, as we know, due to reduced customer spending and investment, and aggregate supply, again due to supply chain disruptions, labor shortages, and then factory closures. The GDP contraction of 23.9 in Q1 financial year 2021 reflected this shift in aggregate demand and supply. We also observe multiply effect there. The pandemic triggered a negative multiply effect. The decline in output in one sector, such as manufacturing, has cascaded effect on other sectors. Just taking with example, for instance, a reduction in manufacturing output led to lower income for workers, and which reduced their consumption and investment, amplifying the downturn across the economy. Next thing is like interesting Keynesian principle where we can see is recovery and fiscal stimulus. So government fiscal stimulus packages such as Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative help boosted aggregate demand. The government is spending on infrastructure, MSMEs, direct transfer to household, injected demand into economy, adding recovery in GDP. And yeah, this good example of Keynesian principle of fiscal stimulus in um, recessionary period for short term. Talking at micro level for this, like firms, talking about firms' behavior and output, micro economic concepts such as production function and marginal cost became critical as business adjusted their production processes. Firm faced reduced labor availability, higher input cost, and disruption in operations, leading to a decline in output and higher marginal cost of production. Talking about market structure, different sectors were impacted differently based on their market structure. And talking with example, for instance, monopolistically competitive sectors like retail and restaurants experienced sharp revenue decline due to reduction in foot traffic. Meanwhile, oligopolistic industries like telecom and pharmaceutical fared better, benefiting from increased demand for digital services and healthcare. So this is overall picture what we see about the GDP. Um, and next, I will be covering Indian rupee, the currency. So talking at macro level, talking about the exchanges movement, the depreciation of Indian rupee during the pandemic can be analyzed through balance of payment model. As foreign investor pulled out capital from emerging markets and India faced a decline in exports, the current account deficit widened. This led to increased supply of Indian rupees related to foreign currencies, causing a depreciation of the rupees. This is very clearly observed. So when you will, if you want to see this, you can check the last, I can say, 8 years Indian rupee movement, and you will be able to clearly see this difference, this impact. Next thing is capital flow and investor sentiments in this segment. So foreign capital outflow due to risk aversion in global market led to rupee falling to actually first near to 76 rupee, and then further the depreciation of currency reflects changes in capital account transaction and fluctuation in foreign exchange reserves. um, Next, talking about inflation and exchange rate. So high inflation can lead a weaker currency as purchasing power erodes. India rising inflation, especially due to food and fuel oil, increase the downward pressure on the rupee in the global market, reflecting the purchasing power parity theory of exchange rate. Talking at micro level about the exchange rate, so talking about exporters versus importers, the depreciation of rupee had differing impact on firms based on their exposure to the international market. Exporters benefited; they were very happy from the weaker rupee as their goods became um, more competitive globally, although they were earning similar in terms of Indian rupee. On the other hand, importers faced high cost for foreign goods as weaker rupee meant that they had to pay more in terms of Indian rupee for imported raw materials and products. Also, the other interesting thing is currency hedging. Many large firms engaged in international trade had to adapt to the depreciation by using hedging strategy to protect themselves from currency fluctuations. Smaller firms lacking such financial instruments suffered more from the volatility in exchange rates. So this is overall topic about impact of COVID on Indian economy and how we can see multiple micro and macro economic concept reflecting in this transaction. Thank you. See you next.